sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenixes that you are. Welcome, everybody, and hello. This is Andrew David. This is Blake Newbar's partner program. So yesterday, we talked about success, and we talked about the equation for success. Did anybody pick anything up or start to maybe implement, their own variables into that equation? Take a look at some stuff. All right. Any comments on any of the stuff we went over yesterday? So here was, I shared yesterday my equation. So we kind of looked at this, right? Time, effort, expertise, investment, passion, and focus, minus the resistance and distractions, right? So these were the things that we were talking about, and there are variables that are in here. All of these things are elements that are within your control, right? So the resistance and distractions, some of them are in your control. Obviously, some of them are out. Most of the time, resistance comes from within. A lot of times, the distractions come from within. All right. Any comments on that? Any questions or concerns? I want to talk a little bit about when it comes to success. I'm going to share some. Let me know if you guys have heard any of these things here. Let's look at some excuses, some great excuses if you want to avoid success. Things I hear all the time. Listen, it's too hard. I don't know where to start. Or you keep your finances in a mess. If your finances are not in order, that's one way to avoid success. Sometimes we are doing that in order to avoid success. Here's a hard truth, guys. I'm going to say this. It's not going to be popular. Some of you guys aren't going to like it. Sometimes you keep your finances not in order because you're scared of success. So a lot of times people say, well, I'm not successful because my finances are not in order. And if I had more money, then I'd be able to get things going. And that's what's kept me from being successful with all of these other things that I've done in the past. Subconsciously, a lot of us, and I've been through that, and I constantly work on that as well, because I was raised, without a whole lot. I was raised in a very poor neighborhood in Oakland, California. I grew up without having a whole lot. Both the parents work, kind of the latchkey kids is what we used to call them. I don't even know if that's a term that people use anymore, right? But I came home. Occasionally, I'd see my parents, maybe, right? I talked about it the other day. Sometimes if I saw my dad when he got home from work late, he'd end up reading, but we were always poor. How many times do you hear that phrase like, oh, we can't afford that. We don't have it. That's too much. That's not us. All of that kind of stuff. A lot of times, Forrest, I'll take a look. A lot of times, guys, we sabotage our own finances because we're scared of success. Or we're scared that we won't succeed, which is it's the same BS excuse. But so you need to identify your barriers. Go to The Big Leap, read the hidden barriers that are there, read Secrets to the Millionaire Mind, identify what's going on, but understand a lot of times your financials are out of whack because you're scared of what happens when you finally get your shit together. Okay. So just throwing that out there. Okay. Yeah, there really is never a shortage of excuses. So, I would, but my family needs me. There's too much going on right now. Oh, I'm too old. That's not me. I'm tired at the end of the day, or I'm not enough, or, I'm worth more than this. Right. So here's other things. If you say some of these things, then you're just not serious about success. I so wish I could do that. I really would. I'm jealous. I would love to be able to spend time in Italy and the Caribbean on vacation and this or that. I would love to quit my job, or I really wish I could. None of these things have any power behind them. If we're talking about goals or we're talking about success, and you say, you know what, I really wish I could quit my job, then I would be fill in the blank. It would be nice to have. That's not serious. That's barely even wishing. All that is diminishing success and its importance. That is you setting up and saying, hey, that's just not important to me. Okay. That's what that is. So busy as a single person. That's what I'm going to talk a little bit about that, Madeline, and understand, guys, hopefully some of the newer people, you guys understand, I'm here, I'm sharing some stuff. I'm not trying to direct it at any one person. So anything I say, if you take it to heart, evaluate, right? So here's something about success you got to understand is even if you put in 100% performance and you start achieving things, there is a ceiling that comes about based on your mindset. We've heard that saying, hopefully you've heard that saying that you'll never succeed beyond the limits of your personal development, your mindset. Okay, you can push and push and push, and you can raise that ceiling though. Now, here's something, and this goes, Madeline, right to what you were talking about. People complain about being busy, but they resist giving up their busyness because it's become their identity. A lot of you guys do not want to give up being busy. It is so embedded as an excuse that you're going to complain about this time of year, but you're going to love it because this time of year means you get to be busy. Even if you're not busy, you're allowed to be because everybody assumes you're going to be busy. Some of you guys are going to tell me this year, and some of your clients, as you're marketing, or some of your family members, oh my gosh, but I'm just so busy. But are you? Or are you choosing to be busy just to be busy? Right? So there's the difference. Right? Are you filling up the time because it's expected? Just like, you act a certain way around certain people because it's expected. Are you doing some of these things? Now, some of you may have work where, yes, it's 100% necessary. Maybe you got something like Forrest. Hopefully he's full of holiday parties that he's going to be, working. That's a little bit different. Okay. But here you go. I'm busy. And yeah, if you're selling something at any time, if you've ever been in sales or you're in business at all in life, the holidays, well, people are too busy or they're spending money here, they're spending money there. When in reality, we create the busyness, and December is kind of the time of year where mentally, even if it's subconsciously, people give themselves an excuse to spend more money than they really should, or that they would normally. Forget the should. They allow themselves to spend a little bit more, and even businesses are set up the same way. Now is the time, if you're going after tax deductions, for your business or educational purposes, or now is the time you would spend it anyway to lower your tax burden. Why the hell not do it? So this excuse that, well, if you guys have launched and you're going, well, businesses just aren't looking right now this time of year, it's BS. It's an excuse. It's another excuse to not succeed. If you're talking about being super busy right now, so we could go around the room. We got 45 people on here. We had 50 on yesterday. Half the women on here have been a single mom at one point or another, right? Half of the dads have been single dads and they're working extra stuff. How many of you guys have more than one job, or the 40 hours a week isn't really what you're working? You're doing more. Everybody's busy. I had a conversation with someone recently and once you're up and running, guys, there's a certain amount of time that each day you should put in. And beyond that, if you want to grow fast or you want to do something, fine. But really, here's the amount of time, hour to 3 hours a day. If you're strategic about what you're doing, you manage your time well, there's a lot that you can get done in that hour to 3 hours. The problem is procrastination, and I'm going to talk about here in a second. But an hour to 3 hours, I can get a lot done. And more than a couple of times in the last week, someone has said, I know you said that, but what about me? I'm a little different. See, I'm busy. I went, oh, you're busy. Oh, okay. Because I've never been busy, right? I don't do anything. So, man, tell me what it's like to be busy. I haven't been busy, ever. Guys, everybody's busy. We just decide that we're going to be busy, or we decide we're going to get shit done one way or another. We prioritize stuff. Now, why do we start to struggle with prioritization? Let me talk about that a little bit. It comes from procrastination. Now, typically, your biggest problems, the things that you procrastinate the most are often telling you things that you need to work on. So like Keith, thankfully, went out and found someone to express a gratitude towards, but he started to procrastinate. Guys, don't do that. If you've got something to do and you get that feeling, or now's the time to do it, then get it done. Now, here's a definition from the Oxford English Dictionary. It's a little bit stronger than Webster's. So procrastination is the postponement, often with the sense of deferring through indecision, when early action would have been preferable. or deferring action, especially without a good reason. So that's procrastination. Okay. So look at the difference. A lot of times we go, procrastination is putting things off, right? That's the easiest definition, but it's not complete, because like if I'm planning a trip and I'm going to I'm already close to the beach, but let's say I'm planning a trip I'm going to take a cruise and there's a tropical storm coming through and I decide not to go on that cruise. Am I procrastinating the cruise? No, it wasn't what needed to happen right then because of what was going on, right? And so you need to look at procrastination is taking things and you're deferring it because you don't want to deal with it now, when action now is preferable to that deferment. That's procrastination. Now, reading a few articles, looking at a few studies, college papers, and other people talking about procrastination, one of the key elements that came up a few times was the people that struggle with procrastination. One of the big reasons is because there is a lack of clarity in the pathway to move forward. They don't know how to go from point A to point B. An example, how many of you guys, does anybody like puzzles? Like an actual puzzle, not like Sudoku, but like putting puzzles together? Okay. So even if you don't like them, most of us have done a puzzle at one point or another. So imagine that you get a puzzle and you get, let's say it's 1,000 pieces, and we get it and we got the table set up. There's an area of your house where you're allowed to do this, and you put it down. Now, typically you'll walk by it a few times. Maybe you sit down, you do a little bit, and then you kind of stop, and then you come back to it, and then you kind of stop, and you come back to it, and you stop, and you come back to it over and over and over again. And they've done some studies that show, they looked at time committed and how much gets done. And the last 20% of the puzzle or so is the most productive time. That's when during that last 20%, more gets done in a shorter period of time than any other time during the puzzle. Now, why is that? Because you start to see the picture. You start to see the pieces and you're able to click them together. So putting together your funnel. At the beginning, that's when you're slowest, because we're trying to see the whole picture. We're trying to figure it out. Towards the end, you start to gain some momentum because now we can see, the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. Any project is the same thing. Any elements of your relationship, the conversation with someone that you don't want, it's hard for you to imagine each aspect. Remodeling the house. How many of you guys have ever remodeled a house? How many of you guys sat with a kitchen remodel that sat there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, that just never seemed to get finished? Curtis is like, no, that's not me. I get shit done. Curtis is a good man. But my point is, a lot of us have that issue. We defer it because we can't seem to think of those steps. So how do we work on procrastination? Okay. That's what I want to share with you guys a little bit, because procrastination truly is one of the biggest obstacles to success. If you want to succeed, you got to be able to see what you're pointing at. Okay. So from Dale Carnegie, inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy. Quit planning everything. So here's a few things. Now, I shared this in the Skype group. So you have these slides. Here's a few things you can do, turn procrastination around, but plan the rest of your day. Break the project that you don't want to start into smaller pieces. So what can you do now? You look at cleaning something, tackling the simplest parts of your work for the day, take a walk, maybe talk to somebody, try to automate, right, pieces of the process. Take some time to organize the office, get yourself dressed, quit lounging around in your pajamas, especially during this pandemic. Maybe pray, meditate, give yourself a deadline and a reward. So, hey, I got that done. Give yourself some kind of little reward. Just start doing a little bit. That 10 headings, 10 emails, 10 posts, 2 posts, whatever. Make your bed. Understand that some amount of procrastination can work out. Just don't let it control you, guys. So one of the important elements, so Madeline, I would look through those. There's a lot of little things. Does anybody, and if you guys have something that you use to work on with procrastination, share it in the chat here real quick. One important thing is going to be the visualization side of this. So it's being clear on where you want to get, and then mentally trying to map out what some of that looks like. There are going to be, especially when you are tackling a new project like your funnel, like getting up and getting marketing, getting new clients, there are going to be elements that's hard for you to visualize because you haven't done it yet. Okay. You got to be okay with that. You have to be okay that you're sitting down to work on the puzzle. You don't have all of the connections for all of the pieces don't quite make sense, but that doesn't mean you don't work on it. Right? The more pieces that you put together, the more you start to understand, the easier it will become once you finally get going. Guys, this business, anything you do is kind of like a puzzle. You don't wait for the puzzle to be done to start working on the puzzle. Doesn't make sense. And if you can have someone sit down and kind of keep you accountable or work on the puzzle together with you, then great, let's do that. Okay. So I'm going to give you these slides. I want you to look through them. I want you to think about what it is that is what you're procrastinating with. That's kind of the thought today as we work, because this is the resistance or the distractions in that equation of success. I need you to kind of imagine what it is in your life that you're procrastinating with. And it may be elements of the funnel. It may be your health. It may be communicating with somebody, maybe getting something else done, maybe dealing with insert thing here. Let's do, before I read some of these comments, real quick, what's your biggest frustration right now, or what do you think you're procrastinating with? Write it down. One or two things. There's got to be something that comes to mind. And if you're saying right now, well, nothing really comes to mind except, what is that except? Because there's something that's trying to worm its way into the back of your head that you're not wanting to recognize. And you're saying, that's not real. I'm not really procrastinating that. I'm not doing that because what is that thing? Because everybody's got something. Something is there. That's what you need to pay attention to. And so look at the slides that I put into these slides. I dropped them into the Skype chat earlier. Look at it, look at these ideas and kind of go, well, what can I do? Sit and try and visualize it. Seriously, 10, 15 minutes today, map it out mentally. And what's going to happen as you're doing this, guys, and this is, you got to pay attention. When you start to map this out, the obstacles are it's going to be easy for you to visualize those, the problems, why you're not doing it, what the hassle is, because you're wanting to give yourself the excuse not to do it. Because that's the easy part. It's easy to put stuff off. It's easy to say, well, I'll get to it soon, because it's a conflict and we don't want to deal with the conflict. And so your mind is going to give you all of the excuses as you sit down to visualize. And I need you to fight that. I need you to push back, and you need to go, what can I do now? What can I do today? I may not be able to do everything. Odds are you won't be able to solve it right now. Some of you will be able to. Some of you have something that'll take you 5 to 10 minutes for a project that you've been putting off for months. Something. So please be aware as you sit down and visualize. You need to be patient with yourself. You need to be calm. You need to breathe through this. Find an area that you can be peaceful, because if your agitation level is up when you sit down, it's going to be even harder to identify where those breakthrough points are. Okay, so real quick, find myself multitasking 100% of the time. Yep, it absolutely, Michael, multitasking is a great way to not get shit done. Right? I mean, that's it. So what you need to do is kind of identify, instead of multitasking too much, and there are certain times, like walking the dogs, listening to an Audible. Yeah, if I'm doing the dishes, I'll listen to a book or something. That's different. Trying to do tasks, though, studies show that it takes anywhere between 5 to 30 minutes to move from one task to another into a state of productivity. So every time you're trying to shift in and out, especially if we're juggling 3 or 4 things, you never reach a state of productivity with any one of those elements. And so it takes you exponentially longer when you think, hey, I'm just moving forward. So the easiest way to do this, everybody's different. So I'm going to say the easiest way that I have found to do this, because you need to find the best way for you. Time blocking for me kind of works. I look at those transition times. If I'm going to transition from one thing to another, I want the next thing that I'm doing to be kind of closely related to what I was doing, if possible, because my mind will transition easier. I always try and give a cushion, 5, 10, 15 minutes. If it's a walk, if it's some push-ups, if it's whatever, that cushion helps, because then I'm able to reset. And if I've got to do something that is not at all close to what I was doing, I'll give myself a 30 to 60-minute window in the middle of the day that's either working out or meditation or something that's just like where I completely shut down the activity from before so I can start fresh. But you need to find what works best for you. Trying to juggle and handle 12 different things, though, is a quick way to not do anything. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Absolutely, Jess. Prayer, lots of it. Try to do a little at a time. Yeah, the key is just steps, step by step, step by step. So there's a couple quotes I'm going to share that's exactly that. Create a list of what you're going to do the following day. Yeah, plan that out. You know, it's not sexy. It's not like, hey, babe, I know we're going to bed, and I know you're ready, but hold on, I got to make a list, right? Sit down and plan out your next day. It will be helpful for you throughout the week. Or Sunday, try and map out as much as you can for the week. That'll help you as things move on. And then you go, hey, is this on this list? Is this an emergency? Because too often, one of the key elements of procrastination is dealing with busyness bullshit instead of the work. Okay? And guys, look, you ever want to know what I'm dealing with too, just pay attention to the calls, because it isn't just what you guys are talking about. I'm right there with you. Procrastination, getting busy, doing other stuff. You know, it's important to understand all of this. At the end of the day, set an intention for the things you want to accomplish. Yep. Good. Create the night before. Yep. Keeps you organized. Make your list. Here we go. Taking on large projects, small bites. Yep. Come out of isolation. That's essential, right? Now you can do this starting socially here, reach out to people, get on a call once in a while, working on myself. There you go. How are we being on these calls? Help me. Good. What do you mean with a cushion? Just a few minutes. So I give myself a 5 to 10 minute cushion of doing something to help my mind transition. If I'm good, instead of trying to handle 12 things, right? Like, I do my one-on-ones. I do the group calls. I've got emails that I respond to. I've got emails with my team that I work with. I've got a VA, virtual assistant that I'm working with, and I'm trying to teach her copywriting and copywriting in my voice at the same time. So it's work. And so she'll ask questions continuously as she's working on things, but I've kind of taught her, hey, I'm not going to respond every time you ask something. Right? Emails is the same way. So some of you guys like, oh, I email, like if I don't respond right away, I do everything I can to get to it. John, I know I need to respond to you, and Ava too. But sometimes guys, it's like, if you allow yourself to be derailed by every single one, you never get anything done. Right? So Sierra wasn't cool about the list. Different conversation, my man. If I don't have a vision where I'm going, how do I set up a plan of attack? That's a great question. So first thing I do is I figure out where I want to be, right? And that's why defining success. What does success look like for you? And then figuring out there's always elements of that. It's never just this, theoretical. It shouldn't be. When you define success, you should define it, not give a bunch of generalities, right? If I'm working on this equation and my success that I use in my success equation isn't clear, if I haven't defined what that is, all the rest of this becomes really difficult. Can you guys, everybody see my screen? We're good? Okay. So that's, honestly, Cynthia, that's one of the most important things to begin with. You have to define success clearly for you. So defining success as I want to be successful isn't a definition. So you have to figure out what that is. Then you go, okay, so what's going to allow me to live like X? Fill it in, right? Whatever that is. Money, time, location, family, all this other stuff, right? So once I've defined that, then I start to fill in what I know of that equation. Now, there's going to be some things where I go expertise. All right, so what are the elements of expertise I think I need? And then what are other experts in that niche telling me I need? And I kind of look at that, right? And I go, okay, so I can learn that, or I can outsource that, or I can find help, mentorship here. And I look at time and I go, well, I've got this much time. And here's a problem that a lot of people have is when they figure out this equation for success, they just go, here's the time that I have. And they don't allow for any type of, I'm willing to put in more time, or I'll find someone else to use their time. I'll leverage their time, right? They just go, oh, can't do it. There's my excuse, right? Shut it down. I don't have the time. Well, you never figured out define success for yourself, so there's no reason to do it. If you don't define success, if you don't have the logical and the emotional wherewithal to say, this is what I want, and damn it, I'm going to figure out a way to make that happen, then none of the rest of it will matter, right? There's always a pathway. So what you do is you figure out what the issue is, and then I go to someone that's done it. I figure out what they've done, and then I go, okay, so I've got these other elements without making it an excuse. Because we could all talk about our shortcomings when it comes to creating our own equation. Instead of doing that, you say, here's my current situation, and so I need to do X, Y, Z, right? So we can dive more into that, Cynthia, is like in different ways as we go. But does that give you kind of a starting point? Okay, good. All right. I mentally make a list. Okay. So make the list and then visualize what's going to be happening. Mentally making a list is good. Writing it down is even better in one way or another, because you can check things off and you don't allow things to slide onto the list that shouldn't be there. Okay. The One Thing by Gary Keller. Yes. Email is a productivity killer. Absolutely. So yeah, and find ways to block out the noise. Guys, I've given you the slides for this. Today, hopefully yesterday, you thought a little bit about your definition of success. And if you have already defined it on that sheet, that's great. I'm going to put together a little book. I'm going to have my team member put it together and give it to you guys so you can kind of read these different ideas, and maybe it helps spark something for you. But I want you to look at that definition of success. I want you to think about different things there. The restrictions and the distractions are some of the things you have to kind of pay attention to right now. Today, we're focusing on procrastination. I'm going to ask a few of you, and I'd like you to chime in the group, what other distractions or other obstacles there may be in that pathway to success, so we can talk about overcoming each one. Okay. I'd really like to address some of those, because I know some of you guys feel like certain obstacles are, when you're up close, it feels like a mountain. And some of us are able to step back and we're looking at it and say, no, you just got your nose against the wall. All you need to do is turn around, right? So what I'm going to ask for are other distractions or things that you have in the way of your success right now, so we can talk about some of those. But today, guys, think about procrastination. What is it you're procrastinating? Something in your life. There's very few of us that don't procrastinate anything. Something is going on in your life that you're procrastinating. Identify that and let's get to work on it. And as always, doing that day in, day out, strengthen yourself. You'll find a way to rise up from the ashes, fly like the phoenixes that you are, and go out and do some stuff. All right. Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenixes that you